We have here some really big news coming out of the cycling industry. Shimano has officially released their recall on 2.8 million cranks affected globally over the span of 11 years, which is an absolute absurd amount of time if you think about it. No matter if you're in the cycling industry as a profession like myself, or you're a consumer who just bought a new bike, or you actually just ride SRAM only, you are affected by this as well because of the people around you and in the group. So in today's video, we're going to talk about this whole process, what's going to happen, talk about the replacements they're going to offer as well, which is they're doing their best on that. But I'm surprised how long this has gone on for, and with just the recall being announced now. So I've also had my fair share of incidences with this happening to customers in my store, and also I've talked to other stores in my area as well that they've obviously this is just a well-known thing that's been going around. There's been YouTube videos on it, but you know, every single customer that had an issue was always taken care of by Shimano, no questions asked. So we always kind of knew there was a problem, but there's nothing there to go ahead and help support that. So I'll talk about my experience with that as well. So let's get into brass tacks. So the news is 11-speed road cranksets with more than 760,000 affected in North America and 2.8 million globally, which is a massive number, okay? The United States Consumer Product Safety Commission says the recall applies to cranks sold over an 11-year period. Over 11 years. That is literally 2012. That is when I bought my first apartment, or moved out of my parents' house into a first apartment. From January 2012 to August 2023, reported 4,519 instances of crankset separating. Now, that's only the crankset separating of instances that got reported for warranty. I'm sure there was much more cranksets that just happened that people might have had for longer years, let's say a 3 or 4 year period, and they didn't deem that warrantyable, so they just bought new cranksets. Because, yes, they're going to recall these items, but I know personally, customers who were outside that warranty period that Shimano wouldn't cover, and they had to buy new cranksets because they're out of that warranty period. Because of this, the reason why they went so into it is because they says there's incidents that have resulted in 6 injuries, including bone fractures, joint displacements, and lacerations. I've seen firsthand as well of bicycles in my store that have had damages caused by this, people falling over. Nothing crazy as lacerations or broken bones. The rider was always fine, more road rash than anything. But I've definitely seen damage to chipped paint, broken cranks, broken pedals, you name it. So, what is Shimano going to do about this? They have a whole recall setup situation in place. Any dealer that can take a look at, I believe you have to be over $5,000 of orders to be an official recall dealer. So, check with your local Shimano dealers or check with your local bike shop. I'm sure they'll tell you if not. But basically, as you as a consumer, you're bringing your bike into the bicycle store if it's within this period. Shimano's also released a video, but they came out with these cranks. Ultegra, Durace, and then also Durace with power as well. There's only a few brands that were affected by this specifically. So basically it says right here, Durace and Ultegra cranksets with the following model numbers are affected. 6800 series, 8000 series, 9000 series by Durace, Durace 9100, Durace 9100 with power as well. They will go ahead and put down every single number you need to check to figure out whether or not yours qualifies in here. But still, you want to go ahead and make sure that you have, even if your number isn't affected by this in here, they still say to bring your bicycle, if you do have this product, these Ultegra cranksets, into a store and have a certified technician check out the bicycle, make sure you're being aware as a consumer, listening to your bike, hearing if creaks or cracks are going on, something that doesn't sound right, to bring in and get it regularly maintained as well. So basically, they'll go ahead and check your numbers on your cranks, and they'll figure out whether or not it is going to be warrantyable. This is basically a picture of what it looks like right here. This is thanks Shimano page. I've seen this page multiple times on Instagram, where people basically show their failures with Shimano. And this page has been going on for a long time. And this guy has always asked for justice in this situation. But you can see the cranks, basically what the recall is saying is that there's some kind of delamination or the adhesive bonding that holds the crank together becomes separated, and then this completely falls off. Every experience that I've always had with taking care of these customers that had this type of stuff, Shimano has warranted it without a question, without a hiccup. I remember even a customer having it within like 2.5 years and the crank like beat. Like I'm saying beat, and I'm like, when I first, this was like probably around the 10-year, 9-year mark ago. I was like looking at this thing, I was like, man, this thing is beat up. It looks like you got in an accident or something like that. And I was even on Shimano. I was like, Shimano, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if this can be covered in warranty. Like, oh no, we'll cover it. So it must have been already going around that something was going on. I'm just surprised about how long it took to go out. As my shop, like I said, I maybe encountered about 25 to 50 of these incidences, and that's just my shop alone. And we're a little hot zone for bicycle shops, so I know other stores that had 50. I know other stores that had 50. I know other stores that had 50. And we're South Florida, where it's heat, sweat, moisture, salt. It's a perfect place for something like this to go wrong. But yeah, very bad time for consumers. And like I mentioned before, even if you only ride SRAM, I'm sure the people that you're riding with in the groups as well have a Shimano crankset. So you don't want them falling and damaging and hurting themselves and causing a wreck or pile. So what do they want you to do? You bring it to a bicycle store like mine. If it falls within this category of these numbers on the crank, I will then go ahead and take a look at it to go ahead and make sure that if it does fall within these numbers, I will go ahead and submit the claim to get a replacement crankset out. Shimano will compensate for us time for going ahead and looking at it, removing the crank, sending the crank out, and installing a new crank. If it doesn't have these numbers, again, they just basically tell you, ride safely, continue to maintain your bicycle and equipment, and just make sure that you listen for any creaks or cracks. If you need to get a crankset replaced, they have options for you. And this is where it kind of gets a little bit silly. But right here. So if you have a 9,000 power version, 9100 power, and it falls on that recall edition. So let me pull this up for you actually, like this. So if you have a 9100 power meter crank like this, and it falls under that recall situation with the numbers matching up on there, or has delamination or something's wrong with the bonding, they will go ahead and give you a new 12-speed Dura-Ace crank arms, but fitted with 11-speed chainrings, which might not look the best because the new chainrings don't match, or the old chainrings don't match the new chainrings of the crank, but that's what they're offering for consumers as a fix. I believe that's the same as well with the 9100 normal cranks as well. They're only going to be offering that as well, where you get a 12-speed a 12-speed crank with 11-speed chainrings, which is kind of weird. Also, you have to think about timing. Shimano, for the 12-speed stuff, has gotten rid of the 5339 chainring. So now you are only going to get, if you have a 53 chainring, you can either get a 5440, and then even for some configurations for crank arms as well, like they used to offer a variety of crank arms. Let's say you had a specific instance where you needed a 180, that would be replaced by a 177.5. So it might not be always the same configuration. If that crank is out of stock at time, then you do have to wait until it's going to be fixed or sent back out to you. And it's at your discretion. Like, let's say you bring it to me, I deemed it that needs to be recalled, and they don't have it in stock, and you continue to ride it. That's all on you, basically. Now, oh, Call of Duty, nice. Now, like I said, out of these people, like this, I'm sure is a nightmare for Shimano. They're paying us, they're compensating retailers. They're sending out new cranks as well. I'm sure it's a nightmare for the consumers that had issues as well. I mean, obviously, it's not all about the manufacturer there. Obviously, the consumers that have issues with this, that maybe have lacerations and bone fractures of that, their life's completely changed during this situation. But this is going to be a huge financial blow to Shimano. Not only crediting retailers to go ahead and swap out work for each crank that's done, they're going to fork over new cranks for every single one out there, and if they're deeming that it's 2.8 million globally, that's a massive number on top of the fee that's going in there. As of right now, if it's, let's just say that it's only in North America, 760,000, that's still a huge number for them to pay out on top of like the $75 to $100 dealer fee that we're getting credited. So it's a crazy time, and it's going to bring a lot of people into bike shops. It might up wait times on bicycles as well, but it's a necessary thing to happen. It's been going on for too long. Obviously, now that we're in more of the 12-speed stuff, I don't see it as much, and maybe the fact that people bought used stuff and that this might have happened to them while it's used. They might have just thought, oh, well, it's a used bike, I can't get a warranty on it. Now all these people that have these used bikes can now bring this in and get a safety crank checked out and make sure everything works. So I'm going to be pretty amazed at how all this works out. I'm sure there's going to be a crazy bull rush on October 1st of what happens when people bring their cranks into us. But yeah, it's a crazy time. There's going to be a huge inconvenience for consumers to bring the bikes in there, get them checked out, and at least Shimano has finally put something in motion for this. And I know people will probably say that's too long waiting time, but I don't know. I guess it's the best case scenario for this. But anyways, guys, let me know if you have any questions on this situation. This is one of the biggest recalls I think I've seen ever in the cycling industry. So let me know what you guys think down below, and we'll see what happens. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.